Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ella. If you're new here, hi, welcome. This video is going to be all about passing your driving theory test, UK specific. I recently passed my driving test as well, and I binged a whole bunch of these videos before passing both of them, and I found them really helpful. So I just thought I would go through the sorts of things that I did that I found helpful. This video specifically is going to be focusing on driving theory, and I'll be doing another video focusing on practical driving test. So I'm someone, I do not do well in an exam situation, okay? No, like especially a written exam. I mean, the driving theory is multiple choice, but even just being sat at a computer, I don't thrive, okay? So I've done 2 driving theory tests before. I passed both, but the first time I then didn't pass my driving test, and then 8 years went by, so I had to redo it, which is very annoying. So my first tip would be try and study and do your theory and book your theory when you are planning on actually getting your lessons and learning to drive. No point doing it before. I think it lasts 2 years, and you know, 2 years absolutely flies by. So I would just wait to book it until you are certain that you've got the time and the money to get all your driving lessons and try and pass your test within 2 years. My biggest help, by biggest help I mean like the only thing that I used, were driving theory apps. I'm gonna link the one that I used down below. I can't remember, I think I might have paid like $5.99 for it or something, but totally worth it. Just going through all of the questions on the app helped massively. So I booked my theory, and then I think I booked it like a month in advance. I think that's kind of a good amount of time, because then I could just really focus on what I was doing and know that I've got the test coming up. So it forced me to actually like look at all of the questions. And on the theory app, I would just do mock tests. Mock test after mock test. I started out with like doing 10 mock tests, would see my score. My first couple of mock tests I didn't pass, and then I started passing. I mean, I had a bit of a leg up because I've been driving a Vespa on the roads for the past 6 years. So in terms of like how to be on the roads and, you know, signs and stuff, I kind of had all of that knowledge already just from practicing it in person on the roads. But a lot of the questions I didn't know. So doing the mock tests on the app were a really good way. Just twice a day, I'd do 2 mock tests a day, and then I'd see kind of like how I was doing. If I wasn't passing, I'd then go through all of the sections and see what particular area I was struggling with. In the app that I'm going to link below, that you've got the option to like focus in on specific points. So there's different categories of the type of questions that you're going to be asked, and I'd find that I'm much better at some, not so good at others. Like any questions to do with like the mechanics of the car, I was just like, I have no idea, this is like a complete guess. So then I'd focus in on that and just practice all of those questions in that area, make sure I knew what I was doing, and then go back to doing the mock tests. I found this so helpful. It's the one thing that I think made me pass. I really think if you book your test a month in advance, download the app, and then do 2 mock tests a day, or you know, like 40 questions a day, by the time the month goes by, you are going to just memorize what the answers to the questions are. You know, it's not really about having an in-depth knowledge on driving. It's really just about memorizing the answers that are correct. And the only way that you're going to do that is with practice. So book your test a month in advance and practice on the app. I didn't read the highway code. I really didn't feel the need for that, because you kind of learn all of that as you're going through all of the mock tests anyway. And honestly, if everybody does this, I really think you're in with a massive chance of passing. I just thought I'd go through what actually happens on the day so that you know what to expect, because my nerves were like through the roof for this, which feels silly, but like I walked in there like so You go in, you book your test, you have a time, you have a location. You go in like 5 minutes before and you sit down in a specific area and wait for your name to be called. Go up, hand in your driving licence or your provisional. Make sure you've got your provisional with you, otherwise you won't be able to do the test. And then you have to put everything in a locker, so you can't even have water with you, which is just silly strict, I think. Like, not being able to take water in is just a little bit over the top, but you can't. Any watches, smart watches, you can't take anything in with you. And then I went into a separate room just before I was about to go and do my test. There was a guy in there. He checked behind my ears for any like earpieces, which also very over the top, but I guess they've got to do what they got to do. Checked my hands, checked up my sleeves, kind of like gave me a little like search, which I wasn't really expecting. So maybe expect that, because kind of threw me off a little bit. I was like, oh, this is intense. And then he kind of run through what is going to happen in the test. You get asked if you need any extra assistance, at which point you can say you do or you don't. And then you go into the test room, which is a big room full of like maybe 15 different computers with like kind of separators either side. Sit at your computer, you've got a little headset, and the test begins. So the first part of the test is the multiple answer questions. So you'll have lots of different questions popped up which you would have already practiced in your mock tests through the app, and you have 4 options to choose from. So it's not quite as hard as like having to write down the answer off the top of your head. I found it quite good that you could kind of whittle down which ones it's definitely not, because they do give some silly answers that you're like, obviously it's not that, which helps because then you whittled it down to maybe 2 that it could be. There are some questions in the test that I feel like are kind of like trick questions, like you've just got to know the answer that they want to hear, because there are some questions where it could be 2 answers, like I guess like this thing could be true and that thing could be true as well, depends which way you look at it, but you need to know what answer they want you to give. So yeah, like I said, practicing with your theory mock tests beforehand are the only way that you're going to be able to know what answers they want you to give. So you run through all of your multiple choice questions. Don't rush. That is one thing that I'd say. You've got 50 minutes, I believe, 50 or 55 minutes. You've got a good amount of time there. Like I probably finished mine in like 25 minutes, and that was with me feeling like I wasn't really rushing. I got 59. Actually, let me go and get my paper just to double check. So yeah, this is my... Clearly looked after that very well after I'd passed. I think it was in my bag, and then I had a whole bottle of water spill, so that's pretty useless. But I got 49 out of 50 on the multiple question, or multiple choice answers. So I did pretty well, and I did find it relatively easy this time, just like because of what I've said about being on the roads for 6 years already. But still, take your time. Better to be slow rather than rush through and make some silly mistakes. So I went through all of the questions, and then I went back and I went through all of them again just to double check. Some questions I was like questioning myself on if I'd got the answer right, but I decided just to stick with my first choice, and that was mostly right other than one question, and I knew what question I'd got wrong because I was just like, I have no idea like what the answer is to this. This is a complete guess. And then you do the hazard perception. On that I got 59 out of 75. The hazard perception is just like really boring. Like I kind of just really had to focus in order to not zone out on that one, because you've got 14 different video clips of varying lengths. I think they're up to like a minute and a half long or something. And it's really easy just to like kind of glaze over. But obviously this is testing you for your actual hazard perception on the road. Not that I really think one means that you're going to be good at the other, because you could be great at hazard perception on the computer, but on the road you might not be very good at all. So, but I got 59. I did have one section, my one thing to say about the hazard perception. Again, practice on the app. As boring as it is, you just need to practice and yeah, get used to which things are actually hazards. Another tip that I've got is once you see a hazard, I click maybe 3 or 4 times, like a second apart. Don't click too much. You've got to get a very fine balance of like clicking enough, but not clicking too much. It's scored from like 1 to 5. If you get click early, you'll get like 5 points. And if you click late, you'll get 1 point. I think that's how it works. So I just kind of like would click multiple times, because there were some times on the hazard perception that I'd see the hazard, I'd click, I wouldn't click again. This was in my mock tests. And then it would mark it as if I hadn't seen it because I'd clicked too early, which just like really good at my hazard perception, I guess, but they don't want you to click too early. So if you see it and you clicked early, click another couple of times as well, just to make sure, and then they'll take your highest mark. They'll take the earliest click that they've registered as your final answer. So it's better to click, you know, like 3 times once you see the hazard, rather than just click once and risk them not registering your click because you've clicked too early or too late. And this was something that I did on the test. I had never done this in any of my mock tests, but on one of the hazard perception images or videos, I clicked too many times and it came up with a thing on the screen saying too many clicks, this section of the video has been void, you don't get any points for this. I was like, oh my god, that is so annoying. I've never done that before. It must have just been my nerves, just like overly clicking, and I was worried that I wasn't going to pass my test because that was like a whole video that I didn't get any points for. It was still fine, but I was a little bit annoyed with myself. Just like getting that balance right is something that takes a little bit of practice. So as I've said, practice on the app. At the test centre, I spoke to a girl who was on her 5th try to pass the theory test. So just know that if you don't pass, it's fine. Come back again, do some more revising and try it again. The majority of people don't pass on the first go, so don't beat yourself up, you know, it's not the end of the world, you can always do it again. That is the one thing that I love about this whole learning to drive experience, is that it's not just like a one-time thing and then you don't get another chance. Like, you can keep going until you pass. So if you haven't passed the first time, it might be just because you didn't revise enough, or you didn't get, you kind of like got too nervous and made some silly mistakes. So book another one, go back again. Best of luck to everyone. I'm really excited to finally get a car. I will be getting my mum's old car actually, which is really, really lucky. So I'll make a video as soon as I get that. But yeah, if you've got any questions, let me know. I'll leave all of my helpful links down below. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.